Welcome everybody to SAMA. SAMA is a program where experts are invited to discuss a topic from their area of expertise. And in this episode, we are delighted to once again have Dr. Stephen Ross to discuss in detail the incredible Universal Microscope designed and built by Dr. Royal Raymond Rife. And we'll also be discussing the incredible Nemescope created by Elmer Nemes. The Universal Microscope allowed researchers to observe live bacteria and viruses while applying treatment devices, in other words, frequencies. Royal Rife discovered and proved through the use of his microscope that serious diseases could be treated using precise frequencies. Now, this is of tantamount importance because this one man found chemical compounds can do. Now, during SAMA episode 166, Dr. Stephen Ross touched on the history of this amazing microscope. And in this episode, we will delve deeper. Dr. Stephen Ross, PhD, is a co-founder and CEO of the World Research Foundation. And for nearly 40 years, he has researched and lectured around the world. He's delivered over 200 lectures and made presentations to various worldwide government agencies, hospital networks, and been interviewed on more than 150 radio program stations and 15 regional and national television programs. He's also been an expert witness for the city of Los Angeles and consulted for the insurance industry. So he's a person of worth. What he says is the truth. He doesn't spout lies or conjectures. Now, the history and archives of Royal Rife could have been lost forever, but the world didn't anticipate Dr. Stephen Ross and his stubbornness, his desire to keep history alive, to pass on truths down the generations. And so it's without much further ado, and with great gratitude that we have Dr. Stephen Ross with us today. Welcome to SAMA. It's fantastic to have you back with us.
Thank you very much. I want to say, John, you are as nice as the commentary from these people who have been in the chat. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited to, again, be back and share. And actually, since we did our last show, I had a very interesting experience, which, again, is an impetus for me to be sharing more about Rife. And that is, I was on the internet and I came across somebody's website, and their website said the love frequencies from Royal Rife. And so I went in there, and the music was very, very good, but Royal Rife did not come up with a frequency for love.
Well, he did. He was a musician.
Well, it is. He was. And, I have a very interesting picture, the original picture of him playing his guitar, but I happened to leave a note for the person on the website. And I said, the music was wonderful, but why are you saying it was Royal Rife's frequencies of love? And the person did respond to me and said, I know it's accurate. I got it off the internet. Now, this is a person on the internet telling me they've got that love frequency from someone else's website on the internet. So I wrote back and I said, look, Roy Rife died in 1971 or so. He did not come up with love frequencies. I love Rife. He's one of the greatest of all time. That didn't happen. The person corresponds back with me and says, no, you are wrong. The internet says this is true. I wrote back and said, I'm sorry. I have the original materials. I have the original book. And again, this is Rife's original logbook. And I said, the love frequencies are not in there.
Actually, no, that's not true, because Royal Rife himself emailed me and he said...
And that's pretty much how it's been in all my experience with Rife. When I had the Rife microscope in my offices, the one and only, when I was in LA, I had people come in and say, I have the Rife microscope. I go, really? You have the one and only Universal? And the person would go, yes. And I would say to them, well, why have you come to me if you have that microscope? And they would say, well, I've been told you have a lot of data and I want to complete what I have. So I would go like this to them, follow me. We would walk down the hallway into the office where at that time I was keeping it. And I would say to them, is that the microscope you have? And then they would kind of slink out. There is just so much misinformation, people saying things that just are not honest and truthful. Now, again, I am not the policeman of the universe. I'm not the policeman of the internet. I'm not the policeman for Royal Rife. However, I am a caretaker. And John, I do want to share what we have that came originally from Rife and the 500 personal letters of all of his doctors. And again, people will see this on the internet, but this is the original photograph of the doctor celebrating the end of disease and illness at a dinner party in Pasadena, California in 1931. Now, within 5 years of that picture, all of the doctors but 6 would claim they never were at a dinner party. They didn't know anything about Royal Rife. But here is the original guest book. I don't know how clear it is.
It's very clear.
So it was interesting to note that those doctors who said they never met Rife are sitting in his guest book. So even at the time of Rife, there was a lot of misinformation and people saying things, but this is where I'm coming from again, is to at least lay out what I know to be factual and truthful. And if I don't know something, I'm not going to say and make up something. That's just not my nature. Where I am right now is a library with 20,000 volumes dating to the 1400s in every alternative medicine, electromagnetics. And so I feel an obligation to speak for the materials in this library.
You're doing an amazing task. I mean, it's not a job because you're doing it from the heart. What appeals to me is the fact that you don't take credit for what you have. You call yourself a caretaker.
I am a caretaker. I certainly didn't write these, especially I was born in 49, and I certainly didn't write any of the Rife materials. And as we will get into, because I noted you put that, I have been guided by dreams since I was 23 years old. I am 73 years old now, and for 50 years, dreams have led me all over the world. And in a moment, we'll talk about how a dream led me ultimately to the Rife microscope. But I didn't want to just jump into this for the dramatic effect, John. If I did, because we got to make up for a slow beginning with something exciting.
Okay. Well, we did cover quite a bit of this of the discovery process on episode 166. Now, do encourage your viewers, if you haven't seen that episode of Summer, please do so at the soonest opportunity. It's a riveting Summer. It's a story that's got so many twists and turns. If it wasn't true, you just wouldn't believe what could possibly happen. And you can see in plain view how greed and protectionism comes in. It raises its ugly head so many times. And here's in full display. We've just had Stephen show us the guest book of these doctors that weren't there. It wasn't me.
They were threatened, and because we have 500 letters of these doctors, again, we're very aware of where the pressure was coming from, having to do with actually the International Cancer Institute, which was the forerunner of the American Cancer Society, the medical profession. It was interesting because Scientific America, I have an original letter asking Rife why wasn't the development of the microscope reported in the AMA journal. Well, the AMA just began taking advertising from pharmaceutical companies. Mm-hmm. And before somebody in your audience leaps and says, wait a minute, these conspiracy, we know that everybody stopped. The other situation was RCA came out with the electron microscope. RCA had a lot of money, a lot of PR, a lot of power. Rife was really a loner. Most of the doctors had begun to retreat from him, and it was bad timing.
Yeah.
So it isn't always the very obvious that people can hang their head on and say, a conspiracy to keep it down. A little bit of that and just very, very bad timing.
Yeah. Very, very unfortunate. But and this was happening in the land of the free. You know, we've got. It's really beyond imagination that this could have taken place. And some of the things that did transpire were quite ugly. And this is in America, where these sort of things is not supposed to happen. But anyway, our focus is on the history, the good and the bad. Now, we've talked in the past and the other time about how you discovered it, how you discovered the microscope. I was thinking maybe during this summer we can have that presentation, go through the PowerPoint, and just step through each page. You're a brave man doing this blind, sight unseen. But we'll see whether we can pull this one off. Okay.
So and that looks exactly like the book.
Which so okay, and this is quite graphic. It's a picture of Royal Raymond Rife. Is that his Universal that he's with?
That is not. That is, I believe, is number 2. Is number 2. He actually built 5 different microscopes. The greatest was his number 3, the Universal. Yes. Each one of them had particular aspects that allowed him to view microbes and bacteria, whether he needed side illumination or the counter-rotating prisms.
Right, here you're, now these, I want to just let our audience know, this is all contained in one of Stephen's books that he's published, his latest book on Royal Raymond Rife. This content was taken from there.
And I want people to know that the Smithsonian report, which is often referenced, where they gave a report on the Universal, I made sure in the book to place the most pertinent documents so somebody really can see the history.
Right. Now, Royal Rife is quite a young man then, isn't he? In those photographs. Would that have been early 30s? Early 1930s?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, I was very fortunate to get his nobody could find his original birth certificate, but I do have the notarized original from his aunt who raised him. So that's just a little extra tidbit.
You must have talked to an incredible array of interesting people during your research. Colorful people and people that...
John, I'm including you. See, it's continuous for me. When I wake up, my wife and I say, let's see what the universe brings today. Every day is something interesting. Now, this is very important because one night I was doing research, and if you can see behind me, there's a device right here. This is an original Dinshaw Gadiali color device from the 1920s. Now, the AMA, the FDA, was instructed by a judge to destroy all these color devices. And so I was interested in gathering information on color therapy. And that night, one night, the Bodhi Tree bookstore, in the dream, I was told to go to the used bookstore, go to a particular bookcase, reach behind the books. And so I did. And this is what I found. I found this book, New Light on Therapeutic Energies, sitting where no one else could see it. And on the screen, thank you, John, you can see one of the chapters here has to do with Dinshaw Gadali, but 2 chapters below is a chapter on Royal Raymond Rife. And that was my first introduction to the Royal Rife microscope, which I had never heard of. So even though my dream didn't say, oh, go and you're going to find Rife, it led me to find something that I was seeking. And in seeking one thing, I ended up finding about Royal Rife, 5 pages.
Now, what is the significance of the light? Why was that device asked to be destroyed?
Color therapy, there were 500 US doctors using color therapy. The color therapy is the use of the visible light spectrum, and it is special glass from Germany. It is the spectrochrome is a perfect 12-color system developed by Dinshaw Gadiali, a yogi from India. And this system with 12 colors was used by 500 US doctors until the AMA said any doctor using the color is going to lose their license. However, when I give lectures and it's to medical doctors, I start talking about the color, and invariably a doctor in the audience goes, what? This color is nonsense. And I go, doctor, what do you do for Billy Rubin, infant liver syndrome, premature yellow jaundice? Well, they never finished. They put the babies under a blue light, and the babies under the blue light live, and the babies who do not get it generally die. And so I have a bookcase of hundreds of books on color therapy, the use of the visible light spectrum. Albert Einstein won a Nobel Prize for the photoelectric effect. Every color is a specific energy. So we have one of the most natural therapeutics with very little side effects. So that happened to be where my current research was. And actually, my research on color began because 2 years earlier, I had a dream. And in that dream, I was told that color could heal the human body. And I woke up and I was 24 years old. And I remember telling my father about my dream. And he goes, oh, Steve, come on. How are you going to find out how the color works and what color for what? And then I come across Dinshaw Gadali, who broke down color for 360 diseases and illnesses. So taking us a little off Rife, but I want to make it exciting and not just a talking head. But
Well, it's a help.
they did not get this. The FBI did not get this machine. These machines, the only ones existing, are usually in the quack museums in Chicago. If you see the picture, they're taking axes and destroying because it's so dastardly. Of course, in the history of the world, you've never heard this. Mary Jane Smith was found OD'd, her color projector blazing away.
Must do some more research on that machine.
Yeah.
Does this work off a prism, does it, to get different color bands?
No, it's got actually color slides, and as you slide the machine back and forth, I can produce various colors by these wheels here. And the exact colors for 360 diseases and illnesses are known. And if somebody is interested, they can contact me if they would like to know anything more about the color.
That's very generous of you. Is this information covered in your books?
Not in this book, but in my other book, And Nothing Happened, But You Can Make It Happen. I have a chapter on Rife. I have a chapter on Din Shah Gadali, where I fully go into it. Yes.
Great. Wonderful. So I do I recommend to our viewers to support good people like Dr. Stephen Ross and buy his books from Amazon, and you'll be helping him to continue with his work and help him to survive. Put food on his table.
I would like to add this. I hate to make this sound mercenary, but I'd love if they ordered from my website, lesscomplicated.net. Rather, it is on Amazon, but the percent they give someone who sells a book on there is very small. But if somebody feels more comfortable ordering it from a big company, yes, all my books are on Amazon.
Okay, so less complicated
.net.
Net. Okay.
All one word, yes. Lesscomplicated.net.
Okay, great. Okay.
Now, yes, now, I find out about Rife, as we see in the book, and I have a medical doctor friend, Dr. Harry Lusk, who was the president of a local hospital in the San Fernando Valley in California. I said, hey, Harry, have you ever heard of something called the Rife microscope? And Harry goes, wow, when I was a young man, now right away, I'm thinking, that's a long time ago. He's 88 when he was a young man. And he said there was talk about a super microscope. And Harry continues now, he said, and this again was 1984. He said, in 1974, I met a man who claimed to have the microscope in his possession, and he gave a lecture. And I said, Harry, do you have that man's telephone number or a way of contact? And Harry said, Steve, I have moved several times. I had called it 10 years ago. John Crane never answered. I don't know where it is. Well, the next day, the next morning, Harry calls me on the phone, and I'm paraphrasing, Steve. I go, Harry, what's the matter? Steve, I got out of bed, and the fellow's name in the paper was on the floor. And I said, Harry, maybe it was there all the time. And he said, Steve, it was not there all the time. I have no idea how it got there. It was John Crane's number. And so Harry said, if you make contact, you have to promise me that we're going to go together. I said, okay. So I call up, I get John Crane first time. Here's what he says. Are you with the AMA, the FDA, the CIA, the FBI? And I said, no, but I was worried because my world research is WRF. But I thought if I told him that, he would blow me out of the water. I said, no, I'm not any of those. I end up making an appointment 3 days later. I call up Harry. I said, Harry, we're going. Harry says, I'm delivering a baby. I said, you're delivering a baby at 88 years old? I can't, Steve, please don't go. So I canceled. Then again, 3 days after that, I go and meet John Crane and saw this incredible, beautiful, wonderful universal microscope that's on the screen.
Gosh, it does look beautiful.
It shiny, beautiful, 5,000 moving parts, over 5,000. It was not in the greatest of condition. I go into great detail when I visited John. His house was all closed up. The room I went into was spooky, dirty, filthy. I sat on a sofa and the dust was just puffing up.
Yeah.
He says to me, would you like a glass of water? And I looked at the glass and it looked like an experiment.
Yeah.
It was not clean. I go, I went, oh, okay, I'm good. I'm not thirsty. So I met John, and 1 year later, we signed an agreement for me to take possession of this microscope.
How old was John at that time? Was he very old?
I was in his 70s.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, there's the agreement. There's so many people with tall tales and stories. I can't tell you, and your audience, how many people have told me they had the Rife microscope, they got it, and I would say, seriously, when did you have it? Here is my original, this is the agreement I had with John Crane. And at first, he offered me all 10,000 slides, all of Rife's original equipment. But I was just starting my World Research Foundation. And to be very frank with you, even though there were slides, your audience is going to think I'm not a very brave man. It was like, I don't think I want those slides of typhus and all of the things. So I said to John, you're offering me all of this. Can I take the microscope? And he said, yes. And that's the agreement.
Gosh. Amazing. And these are true original, photos of the original laboratory notes of Dr. Royal Raymond Rife.
Yep. And they come directly out of his book. I did not make those up. It's a big book. It's heavy, but these are the pages out. And I was very careful to copy whatever was in here in his book, including formulations for his BX formula, which had to do with cancer. These are his lab notes.
Fantastic. So that's
and John, it's important here. And please, I hope I'm not just a talking head going on and on. I'm not really giving much time for you to talk, but I want people to realize there were only about 60 pages of frequency, not thousands. And these destroyed the viruses, blew them up, modal oscillatory rate, destroyed them. So we didn't have thousands, and we certainly didn't have a love frequency that I found here. I do believe in love. I try to spread love, baby, whenever I can. But Rife did not have a love frequency.
The original letters from Rife's research group.
Yeah, and again, everything you have here is in my book, Royal Rife Shattered. It is interesting because I show the progression of the people who first came to Rife. One of the first was Milbank Johnson, local head of the AMA, Rife's biggest, best supporter. And you can see, now it gives me time to say the worst source of information on the planet Earth is the Wikipedia. The Wikipedia is a horrible service. And if you look at every electromagnetic device, anything having to do with color, light, or sound, they rip it to pieces, including saying, Royal Rife purportedly built a microscope. He didn't purportedly build a microscope. Nobody could understand what they saw through it. And Rife machines kill people. Well, here is an original letter from 1931, and I have many letters from the 1930s, showing these doctors' reactions.
Mm-hmm.
And they are phenomenal. I can't believe what I saw. When I return, I'm going to tell my friend Dr. Kendall from Northwestern University. And he ends up telling E.C. Rosenau of the Mayo Clinic. So these are many original letters, yes.
And it's quite gut-wrenching when you read the letters because the doctors are amazed, flabbergasted. Here's something which is, they wouldn't have thought for a moment that it would be working, and it is. And they're expressing their gratitude. But what is being expressed now isn't quite gratitude. It's funny how times change.
And again, we can go through, here's California Western Medicine, the purported microscope. It's interesting because this was the forerunner to the Universal, but it's reported in California Western Medicine. It's reported in medical journals.
Mm-hmm.
That by the time he got to his Universal, you found it more in newspapers, and the journals already were just not reporting Rife's work. But here you have California and Western Medicine.
Right.
I love this man, Lowell's Barker of Johns Hopkins. And in the article, we've put here, scientists were claiming the microscope was violating all the laws of optics. Well, they better get some new laws then. This guy is great. This guy is telling it like it is. And at that time, 17,000 diameters was 10 times. Now remember, it was purported Rife got that microscope up to 60,000 diameters. And that's what some of the other letters were validating. So 17,000 initially, but much more. Now, this is very curious because there were letters that I have, and again, these are my letters. These are not off the internet. These are from my files showing that Milbank Johnson had set up a research committee at the University of Southern California. But the university claims there was never any such group. Well, this is very curious again, for the very simple reason that we've got things on medical doctors' letterheads talking about their meetings and getting together. And USC was going to award an honorary doctorate to Rife. But the day that he was supposed to receive it, the University of Southern California said that he could not receive it and it was not given to him, which the letters, he kind of went into a little tailspin, but I don't have any documentation that tells me who nixed it, but he did not get his degree that he was promised he would get.
And this is what you're talking about before, isn't it?
It's interesting because over the years that I had it, and that is what this first book is about. It's my personal experience. I get a call from Noetic Sciences, Brendan O'Regan, our head researcher, on the line. Dr. Ross, can I meet with you? Sure, no problem. He comes in from San Francisco. He comes into my office. He sits opposite my desk. I said, nice to meet you. He says, nice to meet you. And then he says to me, you know, you're a pipsqueak organization. I go, what? Can you imagine? This is our opening dialogue. Now, yes, I was young. This is like 1985. Noetic Sciences, Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut. We're big. We're a whale. You're a minnow. I'm just listening to this guy berating our organization. So I waited till he kind of took a breath and I said, what do you know about us? He looks at me, he goes, well, I don't know anything. I said, well, how can you call us a pipsqueak organization if you don't even know anything about us? Well, this is Noetic Sciences, and Edgar Mitchell is very famous. And finally, he said, I said, so why are you here? We should be given the Rife microscope. I said, really? Why? I told you. You're a pipsqueak. We're a big organization. I said, well, thank you so much for your trip. I don't think so. He started to leave and he goes, somebody told me you're having a conference. I said, yes, and our 1986 Congress, going to have speakers from all over the world on electromagnetics, frequencies, the creme de la creme. Well, could we be a sponsor? I said, and by the way, at that time, I didn't have any sponsors, figuring out how I was going to pay for it. And I go, you know, I've got a lineup of people, of organizations. He says, well, what if we send 50 people, we're going to pay for everything, and we'll pay full price. I said, well, you just went to the top of the queue. So from being a pipsqueak organization, they ended up being our sponsor fully for World Congress, where we flew in the chairman of the Nobel Assembly, Dr. Nordenstrom, and we had Wolfgang Lute. We just had the who's who of electromagnetics.
Oh dear. Is it now what you're talking about is different mindsets. Some people seem to think that achievements are the person. You know, and if you're just a single person or one-man band, that immediately makes you a lesser person and unable to achieve things. But if you're driven and of high moral standing and have got more than half a brain, well, then you can get somewhere. And I believe you tick all those boxes. So,
well, you know, it's funny because when I was giving a lecture at the Association for Research and Enlightenment, Edgar Cayce,
yeah.
Christopher Bird, who wrote The Secret Life of Plants, comes up. He was really a nice guy. He was a little tipsy, but he was a very nice man. And he says to me, oh, I understand you have that microscope. I said, yes. And he says, that's great. You know, my buddy Marcel Vogel wants to talk to you. Can we arrange a meeting in our rooms? I said, sure, no problem. So Marcel Vogel comes in, and your audience is so nice and so loving. I can't tell you exactly what he said, but he said, how the F do you have the Rife microscope? How much did you pay for it? And I should have it and not you. I look at this guy like, who are you? I wasn't aware of all of his work, but these people, and I'm not going to blame it on my bald head because I had hair back then. Otherwise, they'd say they were taking advantage of me. But it was organizations, it was people. Christopher Bird was nice. Right after that, I received a trunk of all the research he had done trying to find the Rife microscope.
Wow. Nice
He'd
guy.
been searching for 5 years and didn't know where it was, and he ends up sending me all of his research.
Gosh, nice guy.
Very nice. This was the speakers. I just put it in there. I want people to trust and know that what I'm telling you is what I'm telling you. And these were the various speakers we had. It was interesting because DeRoss and the Vernajoul made visible the entire acupuncture meridians using CAT scan cameras and technetium-99. Aerospace nuclear medical doctors from France validated the 5,000-year-old Chinese meridian system 100%. How? They took technetium-99, injected it at acupuncture points, and it migrated or moved exactly along the meridians. When they injected on a non-acupuncture point, it just pooled up and didn't go anywhere. Their work was accepted in the French Academy of Medicine, aerospace nuclear medical doctors, and the rest. Nordenstrom was chairman of the Nobel Assembly, Wolfgang Ludwig, space mathematics, and so forth. I know I'm digressing a little bit. I hope your audience is okay with the side.
If we don't hear it from you, we won't hear it from anybody, Stephen. Okay. So it's important. What you consider ramblings, we consider gold nuggets. So continue as you are.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Now we're talking about Barry Lyons. And we've got two things here. First of all, one day out of nowhere, two lawyers show up with John Crane in between them, propped up, and they said to me, your agreement was for exactly 2 years. The 2 years are up, and John Crane is demanding his microscope back. I look at John, he's not talking. He's like he's drugged. I spent time with him. He wouldn't have given me the microscope if I didn't know him. John, is this right? He couldn't respond. And then I told the lawyers, look, the microscope is in a bank vault. My nose was growing because it wasn't karma for a lie. But I said, I'm sorry, I can't deliver it till tomorrow. And then we took all kinds of pictures. And then the lawyers came the next day. They had a small van. I had Rife's library books. They took the books and threw them across the bottom of the van. Didn't even care about his books in his library. They were kind of fighting over it, even though there was only one van there. Already these two lawyers were fighting, and they took it back. They took it away. And the reason was Barry Lyons, who wrote a book called The Cancer Cure That Worked, and everybody quotes it, and he did a good job telling the story about Rife, and he went to John Crane and said, look, that's Steve Ross. That Steve Ross has it. I called him. This is still Barry talking. And he said he's got a plan. But John, people are dying. You've got to take it away from him. You got to give it to me. And so he was really behind this. And this was the letter that he sent to me from Barry Lyons, kind of semi-apologizing, hoping that I would feel good and help him. But I'm going to tell you, I had a very bad taste in my mouth with not having any warning at all. Not that I felt it was only mine. Now, friends and people have talked to me, why did I return it? Why didn't I just disappear with it? I had an agreement. I didn't fulfill that agreement. My agreement was I had 2 years to get it in 100% functioning condition, which there was no way I could. There were crystals missing, and so that was impossible. And I decided I did my best to take care of it. The owner asked for it back, and I gave it back. But Barry Lyons cost the world the microscope. The reason was a month and a half later, and I don't know if you have the slide, a month and a half later, Mutual Benefit Life, the 9th largest insurance company in the United States, who heard my show on Bill Jenkins' KABC radio program, came to me looking for the microscope. I told them I didn't have it anymore, but they thought it was only with the microscope. They didn't realize my organization had hundreds of therapies for 350 diseases and illnesses. And so they ended up doing a program a year and a half with me for more than $2 million. But because there was no more microscope, the microscope was off with the lawyers and Barry Lyons, who at that time were ripping each other to pieces, fighting over who would be in possession of the Rife Universal Microscope.
You mentioned in the previous Samuel episode 166, that the Universal Microscope is in a safe location now. Does that still stand?
That is correct.
Okay.
People will say whatever garbage and misstatements. The biggest one, and I don't know if we're going to cover later how the FDA killed me and took it. People claim they have it. That's all nonsense. I know exactly where it is. It is with my associate. It is protected. And anybody who tells you that they have it or they were with it is false. It's still around.
Right. This slide, the universal returns.
Yes, so several years goes by, about 8, and one day a woman walks into my office and she says, you know anything about microscopes? I thought this lady must be putting me on, because of course a lot of people knew I was making some presentations. I said, yes. She says, well, I'm representing a man and he's got a super microscope and he's looking for someone to fix it. Now I said, well, who is he? Well, I'm really not allowed to tell you. Well, I said, is it Barry Lyons? She said, why, yes. She says, you know about the microscope? I said, yes, I do. I said, I cannot get involved, but I know a man who has the ability to fix it. I have here's his name and number. You, Barry Lyons, get in touch. I am completely out of it. All I'm going to say is you asked, I answered. So eventually, the fellow I know ended up working with Barry Lyons. Barry Lyons had him with the microscope. He still has the microscope. It's not in any government agency. I wish it's not with Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's not sitting in a big warehouse. I was asked in 1995 by a man named Jordan Phillips, who was the head of the gynecological endoscopists. That's a tongue twister, the doctors who do the microsurgery. And Jordan said, I heard you speak at the Los Angeles Rotary Club. And that for me, that was quite an honor, because the LA Rotary Club, you have the Vice President of the United States, you have Colin Powell's, but somehow I ended up there. This Jordan Phillips hears, and he says, we're having a conference, and I would like, there's going to be at least 2,000 doctors. Give them something alternative. I'd like to broaden their horizons. So I thought to myself, I go, why not? Why not give a presentation on the Rife microscope? That should be something of interest. So here it is, 2,000 doctors. I get up before my presentation, a slide presentation. How many doctors here have heard of the Rife Universal Microscope? Nobody. There were doctors from 25 years old to 95, every leading institution. Not one of those doctors in 1995 heard of the Rife microscope. So I give my presentation, our slides, with the idea that I'm going to shut down every person's thought of why it's impossible by showing them a letter or something. So I do this for an hour. I finish. Not that it should be expected by a speaker. I have never had a reaction like that. There was not a sound. Nobody threw anything. So I walked off the stage, and Jordan Phillips goes up and he comes, oh my God. He said, nobody left their seat. Nobody went for donuts or coffee. Nobody went, you must think you're still, something's going to happen. Maybe it's going to be wheeled in. So I go back up, and he says, he's finished. Okay, they clapped. Yeah, it was great. And then they would come up to me, a few of them, from Mayo Clinic, from Northwestern, from Johns Hopkins, all of Rife's people. Was it ever patented? Can we make money off of it? But 3 years later, I give a lecture at the Dowsing Association Western Conference, Flagstaff, Arizona. 200 people. I ask, how many here have heard of everybody except for 3, and they were waiters. Everybody else, every dowser knew about Royal Rife. The medical people, 0.
Yeah.
So over time, I gave a lecture at the Breakthrough Energy Conference. It was a wonderful conference in Boulder, Colorado. And during the conference, we end up with, my wife said, Steve, wouldn't it be nice if somebody does a movie on Royal Rife? I said, I'm sure, as long as it's done well. So she ends up talking with a woman, with a man, and the man says to her, oh my gosh, we're already looking at doing a movie. And I end up a few weeks later getting a call, and the woman goes, hey, babe. I'm her babe. I've never met the woman. Hey, babe, I understand you know a little bit about a microscope, and we're writing a treatise, and it's going to be wonderful. And I said, well, where are you getting your information from? I've got 2 researchers researching off the internet. I said, really? Has anybody read any of the letters of his time? Has anybody ever seen the microscope? You're doing a movie? Well, no. Well, I said, how could you do that? And she said, well, what do you have? I said, the possession of the microscope, 500 personal letters, his original work. Babe, what if I send you the treatise? I said, okay. I read one page, and my wife, if she would hear, would say she has never seen me so angry in our entire life together. I was like a gnome out of his element all over the house going, what the heck? It's ridiculous. It was the most asinine, stupid, non-factual account of Rife. So I call up the lady and I said, this is ridiculous. She says to me, well, it doesn't have to be true. This is Hollywood, babe. You just do a movie. Well, needless to say, I didn't work with them. The FDA never took it. There were 16 terminal cancer patients. 14 had cancer. 2 of the others had another problem. The Universal Microscope, people mix it up. I think your audience is savvy enough. The microscope did diagnosis. It was not a treatment device, because I meet people who go, well, it's a treatment. I go, no, they're 2 separate. Now, of course, I have a chapter in my book. I get a call, again, when I was in my office. I have 6 staff people, but I took the call. The woman says to me, oh, I just heard your founder was killed. I'm the founder. So I said, really? Where'd you hear this? Well, I was in a rec room and we saw a movie about Nikola Tesla starring Orson Welles, which is very good. And after, some man got up and told the story of the Rife microscope and how Stephen Ross came out of his door and was shot dead on his steps, and the microscope was stolen. Well, first of all, that thing weighs 200 pounds, and I doubt, even when I was in shape and fully had my hair, that I could walk out onto my front porch carrying this microscope and locking my front door. But these are the kind of stories that circulate about this. It's nonsense.
Right. Really highlights the importance of having people that are focused on facts like yourself to put things straight.
So before we get into Elmer Nemes and we get into the Nemescope, I'm wondering if, are you able to see if people have questions up till now?
Yes, what I'll do, I'll share screen. Okay. Right, there's probably been quite a few questions. Okay. There's a question from Dale Carey. How do you, okay, this is a personal question. How do you stay safe? You look left, right, and left again before you cross the road. But now the information that you have is very valuable. And I guess it's not seen in a good light through everybody on this planet. And perhaps some people would rather you weren't above ground. And so what...
So were they asking how I keep it safe, or
no? How do you keep safe?
Well, now we're going to get into a whole other story, because I've been guided by dreams from spiritual sources, not only for Rife and many others, told where to go. I've been given telephone numbers at night. And when I've called these numbers the next morning, and when I was very young, thinking, what am I going to do? I just have a telephone number here. I'll ask for Bill. Hello, can I speak with? Hi, Steve, we're waiting for you. We have something for you. And I would travel to that part of the country or that part of the world. And I've been given information, Tibetan medical books when I was in China, laboratory notes. I am protected. I am protected. And it would be a whole other show, and I would certainly not want to jeopardize whatever credibility I have by telling stories of how I have been protected in many, many situations around the world from various agencies that might have been coming after me and told that somebody was going to be coming at night. And we watched with a team of people as they approached. I am caretaking to the best of my ability. I am not foolhardy. Love my wife, love my life, love people. So I'm not foolhardy, but Spirit is protecting these materials. So I don't know if the person expected that answer, but that's the answer.
You know people in high places. That's very good. Another question, would you say that viruses are just bacteria that change their frequency?
Say that again?
Would you say that viruses are just bacteria that change their frequency?
Well, that is what Rife proved, that there is a basic group of bacteria, and they mutate based on the frequencies, or better to say, based on the frequencies of a particular environment. And when that environment, they will mutate from a benign to a deadly virus based on the frequency. He found there was only so many classes of microbes. So yes, and we have all of these within us all the time. We're not all of a sudden mysteriously invaded by cancer. It's the environment. It is our thoughts. It is our food. It is the true environment. Do we live near high tension wires? Do we live near Love Canal? What are our thoughts? Are we under stress? Those alter the environment, and that new frequency mutates the elements that we have within us.
Right. Now, Shorty Adagio, he's put in the comment section, there's an interesting book written by Margaret A. Cleese, dated 1904. Light energy. That's going to be an interesting one too.
Light dated 1904. I think.
Are you going to tell me you've got the original?
Our books go back to the 1400s. Light energy, that would be very, very interesting. The reason I'm looking over here is because that is our light and color section. And I don't want to jump up and look, but it's possible. If we don't have it, I want to thank, his real name is Shorty. Shorty, I want to thank you for mentioning this book. And this fits in line with when people say to me, are you familiar with this author? And I always say, was the book written after 1915? Well, yes. I go, no. I concentrate on the old, on the ancient. I'm not saying today people are not good, but we keep reinventing the wheel. So I like this, Light Energy 1904. Shorty, thank you. Yes.
Now, Susan Farrell asked a question that a lot of people would be wanting the answer to. What is the best color therapy device available today? I mean, I'm guessing you don't want to sort of, I think what Susan's asking is, are there any good light therapy devices available today? This light therapy, I had a lamp that could have lenses put in the front.
9, 10. Okay, so here's what we have. Now, The machine behind here was built in the 20s, special crystal from Germany. The son of Dinshaw Gadali, Darius, kept up his father's work. It is not about the machines. It is about the actual color filters. So, in the book, Let There Be Light by Darius Dinshaw, he discusses the exact Roscoline filters that are part of this perfectly attuned 12 color system. And so the system is the color and not. Now, Einstein's Nobel Prize, the photoelectric effect, proved this. Here's a red filter. I can use a 5-watt Christmas tree bulb, or let's use something different. Very low wattage. The particle will have a speed on the other side of a certain speed. I can use a 10,000 watt bulb with this red, and the speed of the particle is exactly the same speed. But the speed for the red is different than the speed of the yellow. So color therapy is not dependent on wattage. It is dependent on the filter vibration. And for the bilirubin, they used a blue light for yellow jaundice. And imagine there are colors for more than 320 diseases and illnesses using the visible light spectrum. And there are hundreds of books. And by the way, a very little known mathematician named Pythagoras, who developed the great triangle, the eighth note of the octave, discussed color therapy in 525 BC.
Gosh.
That's how old color therapy is. So her answer, what is the best? Getting the filters. This is a very simple light. That's it. I had the filters made up, green. And the color now, out of the hundreds of therapies, which has been my profession for 50 years, the greatest of all is the color therapy. Not Rife, it is color therapy. Why? Unbelievable upside, zero downside. The worst that can happen is nothing happens. The best that can happen is a rectification of somebody's health challenge.
Right. Cool. How cool is that? All positives and no negatives.
I like it. That's my saying. It's very cool.
Now, Tom Marks made a statement that it seems that Rife is not safe regarding viruses. Please explain. I don't understand that question. Do you understand that?
I wish I could see it. Why
I said at the very bottom, the second to last chat. It seems that Rife is not safe regarding viruses.
Please explain. I have no idea what that would mean. However, it seems that Rife is not safe regarding viruses. Please explain.
He does says I might have misunderstood what you said. The same Tom makes it.
Could he have been remarking when I said I didn't want to take the slides, Rife's slides, when John Crane offered him, because I didn't want to be touching the slides or that they had done all.
Could be. Well, I mean, these are pathogens. Who wants to be touching dangerous bugs? So, yeah.
Even though they're benign, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now we'll go back to sharing the screen. Going through the PowerPoint. Sandy M asks a specific question. Now, I know you're not being interviewed to sort of give it medical advice, I don't know whether you can legally do so, but gosh, there's more questions coming through. Would light therapy work for end-stage emphysema on a frail 84-year-old?
If it was one of my relatives, because I certainly cannot directly address, diagnose, or prescribe, but color therapy is going to work with everything other than structural problems. Even big tumors, it's not going to work because it'll take 100 years for the color to melt a tumor. That's when I would use an electromagnetic device like a multiple wave oscillator. Color's going to work for virtually every physiological problem. It's going to alter the system. And so I would try it for something like that. Yes.
Okay. Let's have a look.
Somebody says, can you use plastic filters? No. And people have machines they call color. They've got red lasers. This is a perfect 12 color system. 500 US doctors were using it. I have worked with hundreds of people over 40 years. That system works. Just using a laser, will it work? It'll work for some things, but this is a complete system, which, by the way, I'm not pushing. We got into this discussion. I'm a librarian, and this is in our archives. I like it. It's called the Spectrochrome System. The book is called Let There Be Light by Darius Dinshaw. You can get that on Amazon. Now, here's the problem. Well, if you go to Amazon and look to order that book, they're charging $40, $80, or $100. If you go to my World Research Foundation, WRF.org, we sell it for $12. The same book. So please excuse me being mercenary, but I'm trying to be frugal. Yes, you can get it in other places. It's disgusting because we can get that book. If we can sell it for $12, it shows you how low it is, and people sell it for $80 and $100. Yeah. Let there be light.
Right. Okay, let's see if I can share the screen again.
John, you're the best. You're the one.
If I'm the best, I feel really sorry for the others.
You're under pressure, putting something nice out. I'm just sitting back, and I'm not helping you. And I'm glad it's not me, because I have no hair here, but the hair out of my ears would be falling out. My glasses would be steamed up. You're a good guy. So the last book we up till now was my book Royal Rife Shattered. Now we're starting with my other book, which is The Mysterious Nemescope, but also I have included all of the Rife pages in this book, every single page. Now, Elmer Nemes, back in the 1940s, ends up developing a microscope that is 50 times more powerful than Rife's. 50 times more powerful. This Nemescope was purported to see down to the atomic level, show magnetic flux lines, which no human eye has ever seen, the North and South Pole, the virus of cancer. But the mysterious Nemescope, which nobody knows where it is, even the founder, Nemes, is very interesting, because one place reports that he was killed in a barroom brawl. Another newspaper article claims that he died in a fire in a motel room and he was burned up. So I don't know about you, but right away that tweaks my curiosity.
Yeah.
Why do we have something like this? And there isn't much about it other than, and I don't know if you have it in the next slide, the Science and Mechanics magazine and another magazine called Magnets. Now, here again, I was able to secure this. First photos of the atom. Now, if people from your show talk about this or they start looking, they're going to find a whole group of scientific people saying, this is nonsense. It is impossible. The photographs that are shown are computer enhanced. There is no way there are pictures of atoms. Well, I am not sure, but I don't believe that computers were around in the 1940s that were well enough to show these pictures of atoms. So what I did in this book, I published the entire Science and Mechanics and the entire Magnets magazine. Very few people have ever heard of this Nemescope. And it also allowed the viewing of substances live. The electron microscope, everybody hears, oh, it does 3 million, it does 2 million, but you can't look at live specimens. You look at dark shadows. Substances put in a field, bombarded by electrons, and nothing live. The Nemescope and Rife, you could view live specimens.
Absolutely amazing.
There is the cover of Magnets magazine, and as you can see, it is showing the atomic structures with energy bonds, and this is what is claimed is computer generated, because the magazine is in 1986, which is still very early. But later we will see, although the Nemescope was stolen, the presentation book is in my possession from the Nemescope. This is from the laboratory with all the original pictures that you will see even in this magazine.
Now, can we just talk a bit about the history, because this is quite intriguing. There's parallels between this and the Universal. You say this microscope was stolen.
This microscope was stolen in 1953. It was being repaired in a camera shop in Studio City, California. And luckily, the presentation book, which I just showed, and you'll see in this article, was held by Betty Lee Morales, an ex-CIA agent and a good friend of Dr. Nemes. She had it away from the microscope. After the microscope was stolen, a few years later, it is reported Nemes was killed in a barroom brawl, or Nemes was destroyed in a fire. Not destroyed, but he was killed in a fire.
Yeah.
And then there is nothing more about the Nemescope other than I had a very good acquaintance who worked for the government and who personally told me, and this is hearsay, that the microscope was stolen by the government. The principles were so unique, it was eventually used in the stealth bomber program. I have not been able, my spirits have not told me that the microscope is anywhere. It just was taken apart to understand the principles of it, which again were extremely unique. And all I have is the original presentation and the photographs, and a little bit more of how it was constructed. There's a diagram of its basic construction, and a little bit more that has appeared in print.
Okay. Why is it that these, all the things we've been talking about, the history, occurred in California? Like, it's like a small place in the whole planet where microscopes, amazing microscopes were invented and then subsequently taken away. And
yeah, and they were very close. I mean, San Diego, California, and Rife, and Studio City, and I mean, we're talking probably an hour and a half. There is some evidence that Rife and Nemes had met.
Okay.
There is some evidence where they met and they were talking about doing a hybrid.
Wow.
But it never happened.
Okay. And so we're still in the dark ages, aren't we? All that we can do now is use electron microscope.
We keep reinventing the wheel. Let's be honest here. And just recently, well, now it's not as recent, 4 years ago, Arizona State University, doctor in the music department comes out, oh my God, sound affects cells and cancer. Well, that was the report. I'm sure he's still working, but it gets quiet. But Rife was doing this 80 years ago, 60 years ago. So we keep reinventing the wheel. What needs to be done? When somebody in an opulent position, what do I mean by opulent? They have the money to set up the research facilities to once again completely validate the use of frequencies against microbes, bacteria, and viruses, and they're not afraid of the pressure that will come from the pharmaceutical industry. Why? Because these people want to live. You may have a lot of money, but this does not guarantee you're going to rectify the problem. They're going to give you a nicer hospital room. They're going to come and give you the cancer shots in your home, but you have no better chance of living. The electromagnetic spectrum is the answer.
Yeah.
These are shots coming right out of the book. See, it's amazing. When you look at this Nemescope, it looks like just a friggin' chamber. From the outside, it could be a hyperbaric chamber. Maybe that's sitting in somebody's garage. They'll take it to the antique roadshow. And the person will look and go, what in heaven's name is this? That's the Nemescope.
Which does suggest that the whole microscope was operated in a different gas environment than ambient.
Correct. John, that is completely correct. Yep.
Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. In fact, the photo on the right, it does look like a regular light microscope of the time.
Correct. But when you look at it to the left, the principles, the unique frequencies that were used to generate the incredible pictures. I wish you could impress your audience, and we'll see. Were you able to capture any of the pictures from the book? They are unbelievable. The cancer virus, the virus of leukemia, the polio virus. Yeah, there it is right there. The middle one is the virus of cancer. Gosh. Unbelievable. It looks like a crab. And by the way, the picture on the left is the atomic structure as the substance is dying. You notice from our first original picture where we saw fields and the atomic structures, they have collapsed and the substance is dying.
Very interesting, extremely interesting. Boy, what researchers could do if they weren't reliant on funding. Everything's so expensive, so they need the funding. The funding is from, and there's the rub.
And that is the rub. Yeah. I have about 80 photographs in the mysterious Nemescope. And what makes it interesting is when some of the elements are excited, you can literally see the energy. So it's none of those pictures, but you literally see the energy of substances. And I don't know how it's going to appear in the screen.
Pretty good, actually. Well, I mean, it's
very, very small, but what I'm trying to impress upon people is you're looking at the energy coming from substances. That happened to be horseradish and ivy. But I have put in every picture that Nemes had in the book. What is the other reason? I have a lot of years left in this body, but you never know what's going to happen. And I wanted to make sure that these things don't disappear. There are millions of sites on Rife and virtually none on the Nemescope. So I wanted to make sure, and that's why I combined Rife's frequencies and these Nemescope pictures. The more it's out there, the more it's protected, the more these things are saved. But right. I'd like to interject something. I hope your people find it interesting. I don't know why, but yesterday I wanted to know, with the telescopes that we have, what is the furthest star that they have located? And I found out it's called Earendel, and it is 28 billion light years away from us. 28 billion light years. So when I see people arguing and strutting their stuff and the politics and everything, like they know, think of the enormous, what this is, the universe, the cosmos. Somebody has created all of this. And we, with our egos on this planet, think we know everything, and we can't even habitate the moon, and there are stars 28 billion light years away. Now, why am I sharing this? Am I trying to put us down? No. Human beings, we're marvelous, we're unbelievable, we're beautiful, we are created by the Creator. But to think we know it all, John, I think is very egotistical. Very egotistical. What do we do? My wife and I decided there is so much misinformation from all over the place, both sides, the various stations. We're going by if we either directly know or people we really trust who tell us something. Then we can say, okay, I can accept that this is possible. But short of that, in today's world where they can finagle photographs, where now everybody goes and gets their books on the internet, and those books can be altered, pages removed, paragraphs removed. We need to learn to trust ourselves. Trust your gut. Believe that you are wise. And if something doesn't feel right, more than likely it is not right. And if the person's telling you They got the greatest thing since sliced bread, and they're bouncing off the walls, and they're a little crazed. Do they really have the greatest thing? I appreciate what you do, John, that you have a show like this, that you have guests and allow people to make up their minds what they feel is reality, what the truth is. Do I know the whole story of Royal Raymond Rife? Not really. I have some things. I'm very blessed to have the photographs that were on his wall, to have the microscope. Do I know everything? No, I really don't.
We are very blessed to have you accept our invitation to return back on our show and learn us more about about Royal Raymond Rife and what he achieved. We touched more about his history and also the Nemescope. But really, I'm hoping that people do open their eyes and realise, well, hang on a moment, this doesn't gel with what I thought.
Yes.
Let's dig deeper. Let's find out more. And I truly hope that they find reputable sources when they do their research. Look a little bit further than Google, because so many times I get emails from people. I've been doing some research on this, and so I'd ask them where and how. On internet, and then I ask specifically how again, and Google or search some other search engine. And if it's on the internet, it's true.
We just don't know. And I recently went into a forum that was about Rife, and was listening to the people, and they were going, when are we going to have who, Stephen, really has a Rife machine? Nobody has a Rife machine. He died in the 1970s. When somebody says, and here's the rub, John, he was destroying, I'm just going to popping those viruses, destroying them. What does that possibly have to do with the machines today that are not doing that? Now, the machines today, of course, they're a completely different approach, but how do you call that a Rife machine? That is where I have a little bit of a difficulty. And John Crane, who defended Rife, came up with frequency generators and some frequencies. I'm like a dinosaur. I am. Rife's original materials and what Rife did was one thing. What's out there now is something else. And yet I will have people adamantly arguing with me. Stephen, the company that sold me the machine says this. I said, really? Have them send where they got their information. Nobody ever does that. Nobody comes through. I would like them to say these are patterned after Rife's theories, but to call it a Rife machine, and that allowed Wikipedia to say, quote, Rife machines have killed people. So when I contacted Wikipedia and said, I have all the original materials, what you've written is incorrect, you know what they told me? We're sorry, we don't let people change what's in there. How could you not let me give you and send you the original document? Sorry, closed. They didn't want to know the truth.
No, that's right. And there's a lot of Rife manufacturers which truly have low moral standings, and their focus is the same as other large corporations. Let's focus on the pocket. And I read on a forum that they want to. This person wants to buy from this company because they are reputable. Now that one thing, that statement, I almost spilled my cornflakes. That was really right out there. That because I know personally the way that company runs, and Nothing could be further from the truth. That's not a statement, because that's what they say in their advertisements and marketing, campaigns and all their affiliates and everything. It's just one ugly mess. It's where people don't focus on the right thing, and you're focusing on the truth. And how on earth can the truth be argued with?
Well, that's the thing. In this Rife group I went into, when I first went in, there were people writing, why are you, what's your purpose here? People come into this forum selling machines. Everybody in here is ill, and they're just trying to sell us machines. And so it was. They just try to sell people machines who are hurting, who have health challenges. I just saw a very wonderful note here from Beverly Rubik. It has been a lot of years. I look forward, Beverly, to you contacting. There is a person a wonderful lady who has researched in this field, the doctor. There are people who still prize the truth, John, who live it. They may not all be flashy. They're not all the ones who are garnering the attention, giving the nonsense. But I'm going to continue caretaking. The materials are here, and when people are interested, we're going to make sure that they find and get what they need. Thank God that the materials are still here. And I'm very thankful that I have been guided. It's interesting. I always like to interject a little of the esoteric and metaphysical. I had a reoccurring dream. Strangely enough, I'm in a library like this when I was in my 20s. And there's a long line of people. And at the front is a big podium and a man looking down. And I got to the front in this reoccurring dream. And I look at him and he goes, "We would now like you to study," and they would give me a name I never heard of, a technique. And then I would go out and scour the world trying to find any information. But I've always been lucky because I ended up learning about a great healer, Phineas Parkhurst Quimby, who argued people out of their diseases and illnesses in the 1800s. And 4 days after I heard about him, I met the world's authority, who had accumulated all this paperwork from the late 1800s. There is guidance out there. There is energy. We are supported. And when you do good things and you really care about people, good things happen.
Yeah.
So I don't know how long we've gone. I don't know how many of your people are now asleep. I hope we put them to bed. If they're tired, we have them dreaming of beautiful things.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on to our show. It's greatly appreciated. Totally enjoyed the first one, and the second one is just as fantastic.
Well, again, people like me, I'd be sitting in my library if it wasn't for people like you who have shows and allow us to come. So, John, thank you. Perhaps in the future, we'll do it again with another topic that's close. But again, thank you. And your audience, their comments, the love that they're sharing, I just want to acknowledge they're really beautiful people. So take care and best wishes.
Thank you. Thank you. And goodbye, everyone. Keep on passing the love forwards, as Stephen Ross says. You do good things come your way. It's important to pass love forwards, both knowingly and blindly. You help people you love, and you even help the people you don't love. And your life will change for the better. Might take a little while. But yeah, generally. Yeah, good things go around. Okay, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Take care.